My name is Cesar. I work as a software developer at Synthes.
Yeah, Luke. I'm a product manager. Have been for the last 8 years, but I'm currently looking for work.
We had this idea for a few months, and then we just saw this as like an opportunity to work on it, our idea, get feedback.
Yeah. I'd say it's been probably more than a few months. Just something that's constantly sort of nagging, and then we kind of wanted something to force us to come together and like do something with it. We'd started before. Yeah. So our idea is to build an app to help migrants and locals meet people who have similar interests who are available at the same time, and really just sort of build new friendships and sort of social groups.
We kind of a lot of just work on like refining the idea.
Yeah, and the people who have come in have been really helpful to sort of give us pointers and clues, and it's just a hackathon's always just a nice place to come together and just like focus and come up with be creative. I think after this we kind of want to have some validation as to whether the idea, the business model makes sense, or whether we think we can get some traction, and for sort of what the next steps are. So this is something that we care a lot about, and actually as time goes on over the few months and even just over this weekend, we're more and more passionate about kind of what it is and why it's valuable. Yeah, we just kind of want to know what the next steps forward are to actually make it a thing. Hi, my name's Luke, and I'm here to pitch to you about Tengdu. But before that, I want to talk to you about loneliness. So we've never been more connected and yet more alone. In the US, even before the pandemic, around 50% of adults experience measurable levels of loneliness, and the impact of that is really profound. So adults who report feeling lonely often are more than twice as likely to develop depression, along with a host of other health conditions. So that's the stats, but I want to talk to you a little bit about my story as a migrant and also what kind of sparked Tengdu. So over the last 8 years, I've moved to 5 different cities, and I've lived now in 2 countries, having now moved here to Iceland. Throughout all of that, I've had quite severe periods of loneliness. Every time I've gone to a new city, I have to find new friends. I don't know anyone. Sometimes that's not been successful at all. And when it has been, there's been a lot of work to figure out how to do that, what's the best route, and I've really tried a lot. But thankfully, like now with Cesar here, when I finally do find friends and friendship, it changes everything. It's a game changer. It really makes a huge difference to your life, and sort of makes me much happier. So, what is Tengdu? So, Tengdu is a mobile app to help lonely adults and migrants build friendships in their local communities by connecting people with similar interests, similar who are in the same area, who also have the same availability. And we also initiate conversations suggesting where and when to meet up, and really try and take the hassle out of forming friendships. So how big is the opportunity? So for migration specifically, with the US and EU combined, this is moving interstate or moving across borders. That's more than 8 million people, and that's not including people who are moving within the country, within the state or within a country to a different city. And for loneliness, in the EU alone, roughly 37 million people feel lonely most or all of the time. So not only is it a big market for us, it's a really big impact that we can have. So how do we know that this is a valid market for us to go after? At the moment, we don't. We know there's a definite need there. But what we have launched is today we've put together a landing page to try and start to understand if we can for people to register interest, and also to ask if they want to get involved in any user research, so we can conduct more market validation going forward. So how do others solve the problem? So in our eyes, there are 3 main ways that this is tried to be solved at the moment. There's sort of traditional event companies like Meetup and Facebook events. There's dating app styles where you swipe left and right on someone's picture. And there's a few sort of flash meetups where it's I'm available right now and I want to meet someone. But we feel all 3 of those kind of fail for 3 sort of key reasons. One is they're kind of a bit awkward. It's not very human. The different mechanisms are different, but it's kind of awkward to sort of really build connections there. They're also mainly geared towards people who are very much extroverted. roughly half the population are not introverted, and even not everyone who's extroverted really wants to go out of their way to try and find people. And on top of that, they're not really built towards building long-term sustainable friendships. So if there's an event, you go once, how likely are you to go to the same event again, and you have to be free at the same time? And similar with the dating apps, it's just kind of an immediate thing. So our solution, and why we think it's unique and best place to sort of solve it, is kind of twofold. One is we're looking for building availability-driven connections. So we want to connect groups of people who have similar interests, but are also available at the same time, making socializing effortless. So if I'm free on a Thursday afternoon every 2 weeks because I have my son, it's going to be much easier for me to form a long-lasting friendship with someone else who also happens to generally be free around the same time. And then on top of that, we want an AI icebreaker. So to try and remove some of the awkwardness out of the conversation. So when we group people up, we want to be able to start the conversation. We know information about the people. We can suggest, hey, this is why we got you together. This is where you should go. And also to, really help the conversation going. So the business model, so simple. It's going to be a freemium model, basically selling advertising data. We'll know a lot of information about our users, but also the AI will essentially act as a recommendation engine, so we can partner with local events, companies, etc., to promote their services. And additionally, we see actually potentially really big market with enterprise for improving employee engagement and happiness. So having a separate instance of it to sell to enterprise. The marketing strategy, just going to mainly say that we think we can work very closely with public sector organizations and non-profits who deal with loneliness and migrants, and that we can get a lot of free marketing that way. The team, so it's Luke. I've been in product management for 8 years. I'm the former head of product at a SaaS startup, and I'm a serial migrant. And Cesar has been working in software development for 3 years. He's also been an exchange student abroad, and he also has startup experience. So how we see the future, with Tengdu, we can see loneliness on the decline, easier to make friends, and the world is a happier place. Next steps, continue market validation, start to build an MVP, and find a designer to develop a really fun and vibrant brand. And yeah, that's essentially the pitch. So all we can ask is if you can register your interest, go to our landing page, and that's it. So questions?
Next time we will QR code up a little bit longer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. Thanks for the presentation. How big of an investment do you see you would need to get this launched?
So get it launched. So great question. We haven't done all of the thinking to figure out exactly how much. We think we can probably launch this pretty small with just a team of Cesar, myself, and one designer. So over the next few months, we're going to be looking to find someone who we might be able to bring on board and join the founding team. But I think we've got all the expertise to get like the initial thing launched.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the presentation. I loved the personal touch there as well. It was great. I was wondering about the monetization.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the points where you were talking about how you'd monetize,
Yeah.
At what point would you see yourself sustainable with that kind of a model?
Yeah, sustainable. So it's a great question. So for the freemium model, not entirely sure, but I think I imagine it might take probably around about 1 year to go from MVP to something that we think is like where we're starting to get traction. We're starting to maybe work towards product market fit. But within sort of the first year or two to try and become afloat, we'd probably look for the enterprise model. So once we've kind of figured out how the nuts and bolts work, it's going to be easier for us to start to sell this product to enterprise at a market. But really, we don't know the exact answer to that. That's one of the things we're going to be figuring out kind of as we go.
Audience questions as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to know why you're limited to 25 to 45, because I'm 67.
Yeah. So this is a great question, and we posted this on lots of social media channels earlier, and someone messaged why we're doing that. And it's a great question. this is part of the hackathon and why we're trying to learn. Our initial thought was they're probably going to be the ones who get the most use out of it, and that's part of the market validation. So we're already sort of sensing that there might be a need above that, but it's not excluding anyone. It's just that's who we think we probably want to target first. But we may very well be wrong with that. So that's one of the things we're going to be discovering over the next few months. Yep.
Literally following up on that, the data shows that you get lonelier as you progress in age. So
Yeah. So it shows that you get lonelier, and then when you hit 50, you get less lonely, and then when you hit 75, you get lonelier again. So it's kind of the data is a bit mixed. But yeah, so there is definitely loneliness issues, but it's one of those things we think the market's big. We just want to make sure also when we start that we're targeting a very specific market rather than trying to cater to everyone. So, and some of that is not necessarily in functionality, but in terms of like marketing, messaging. So, but it's one of the things we're going to try and figure out. So it's a great question. Thank you. Okay, cool.